This would be Tuesday, March 29th, and we're going to get into our final Greek mythology story, which would be the Golden Fleece. Spirit wear for tomorrow is going to be the college day, last day to order your camp shirts is Thursday, and the camp money is officially due. If you've not downloaded this, make sure you do. We'll get through about half the story today, but then you'll have people do the other half on your own. And then our story. Before we get into the actual story, I have to give you a little bit of background with it. And part of it starts with knowing what a fleece is. What's a fleece?
It's a sheep.
Bale.
The sheep.
Nicely done. It's actually the sheep fur. Well, the skin of a sheep, because sheep fur has a different name. You guys know what you call sheep fur?
Yeah.
Nicely done. Wool. And so, this one is going to deal with an actual sheep. And it deals with this kingdom called Colchis. And Colchis was going through a problem at the time. It deals with Thessaly. Thessaly was going through a drought at the time. What's a drought?
It's what I do.
Yeah. And so nothing was growing, and the king was starting to freak out in Thessaly, and he wasn't sure what to do. And he talked to his son, and his son was like, pray to the gods more. So he went and talked to his wife, who was a stepmom to the kid. And stepmoms, as we know from previous stories, what do we know about stepmoms?
They're evil.
They're evil. And so the stepmom had an idea, and the stepmom goes, hey, hon, have you thought about sacrificing your son to the gods? And he goes, I have not. And she goes, you should consider it. He goes, I didn't think we were supposed to. She goes, well, we have no water, so nothing's growing, so we have no food to sacrifice, so we might as well go ahead and sacrifice your son. And the son goes, I don't think that's a good idea. And the mom goes, shh, you know what you're talking about. And he goes, okay. And so the dad decides to go ahead and sacrifice this son. And they bring this boy by the name of Fleece out to this big sacrificial altar in the middle of the kingdom. And the stepmom is cheering him on and getting all excited. And the king goes, I'm sorry, we're going to have to sacrifice you. And Phrixus goes, I'm sorry, I'm going to be sacrificed. Please don't do it. And they go ahead and lift up the knife. And the stepmom is cheering him on. All the people are out there cheering him on, saying, we want to have our crops grow again. And as he brings the knife down, he looks up in the sky, and he sees something flying towards him. There is a giant golden sheep galloping through the air, coming at him. He goes, that's a sheep. And the kid goes, that's a sheep. Let's wait till it lands. And the stepmom goes, no, stab him anyway. And the dad goes, no, let's wait till the sheep lands. And the sheep comes galloping through the air and lands in the middle of this kingdom, in the big courtyard, and walks right up to the dad and the son. And starts nuzzling the boy with this little sheep face. Nuzzle, nuzzle. Nuzzle, nuzzle. And all of a sudden the kid jumps off of the little altar where he was, jumps onto the back of the sheep, and the sheep shoots off into the sky, as flying golden sheep do. Turns out the sheep was sent by Zeus, because what are Zeus's thoughts on human sacrifice? No, works for me. The fact that he is anti-human sacrifice, because what are you supposed to sacrifice to the gods? Animals or food of some kind. So Zeus sent the flying golden sheep to save the boy and prevent the sacrifice from happening. The boy takes off riding the golden sheep, waving his little arm in the air, woohoo, having a good time. The golden sheep flies until it lands in this place called Colchis. Lands in Colchis in the middle of this new kingdom. And the kid gets off and looks around. There's a whole bunch of people there. And up walks the king of Colchis. And the king of Colchis goes, hey, boy. And the kid goes, yes. He goes, did you just ride a giant flying golden sheep into my kingdom? And the boy goes, yes, I did. And the king does what any father would do when you find a boy riding a giant golden sheep into your kingdom, and that is offer him your daughter's hand in marriage. And he goes, would you like to marry my daughter? And the boy goes, yes, I would. And so they get married. And this becomes the new king of Colchis. And the boy decides to do what anybody would decide to do when you have a flying golden sheep that saved your life. And what does he do with the sheep?
Kill it.
He kills it. He immediately kills the sheep and skins it and rips off all the sheep fur. And we have this magical golden sheep fur. And, as everyone knows, magical golden sheep fur has the power to heal you. And so this magical golden sheep fur, they were using it to heal anybody. If you were to get stabbed, if I were to get angry at people for not doing homework, and take just a random stick and ram them straight through as she's laying on the ground, then I would take the golden sheep fur, throw it over her, and bail back, I'm a zombie, and come back to life, and everything would be wonderful. So they take the golden sheep fur, throw it on a tree, and they leave it there as sort of like this wonderful thing in the land of Colchis. Then, on the other side of the world, because how is the world shaped?
It's flat.
Like a giant dinner plate. So we're going to the other side of the dinner plate. There's this place called Iolcus. And in Iolcus, there's a guy by the name of Aristo. And Aristo is the king of this place. And he has a brother, Plius. The problem is, Aristo's a good king, and Plius would like to become the king. But in order for Plius to become the king, what has to happen? His brother's going to have to die. And so what's Plius going to do to help that happen?
Kill him.
You guys have seen this type of story before. Kill him. And so he decides that he's going to kill Aristo. But Aristo has a son named Jason. And, I know, we don't have royalty here, but the way it works is if Aristo dies, who becomes the next king?
Jason.
Son, Jason. And so Aristo realizes that if Plius comes to kill him, that Jason will be the next one to die. So Aristo takes his son Jason and hides him and takes him out into the woods and gives him to a centaur by the name of Chiron. What's a centaur?
It's like a
half horse, half
human horse thingy.
Half human, half goat, half horse thing works for me. The half human, half horse thing. He gives him to a centaur by the name of Chiron. Chiron says, Chiron, I need for you to raise my son because I think my brother's kind of crazy. He's probably going to kill me. And he keeps looking at me with this whole thing with a knife, and I think that probably means I'm going to die soon. And Chiron says, not a problem. I'm happy to help you out. Aristo goes back to the kingdom, and shortly soon after, Plius kills him, because that's what evil brothers do. Plius becomes the new king, and of course, if Aristo's the good king, that makes Plius, and he becomes the evil king. And Plius goes and talks to an oracle. Do you guys remember what oracles do?
Yeah, tell the future.
They can both talk to the gods and tell the future. So Plius goes and talks to an oracle. He goes, I would like to know how my reign as king will go. And the oracle goes, hey, I've got good news and I've got bad news for you. And Plius goes, what's up? And he goes, well, the good news is you're going to be a king for a long time. He goes, that is good news. What's the bad news? And the oracle goes, you will eventually be overthrown. Plius goes, well, who's going to overthrow me? The oracle goes, well, they didn't tell me that. But they did give me some important information, which is the guy who overthrows you will have one shoe. Plius goes, one shoe. He goes, yep. Whenever you see a guy with one shoe, that's going to be the guy that overthrows you. Plius goes, oh, well, that's easy. I'll just go ahead and kill him. The oracle goes, about that. They also said, if you have anything to do with the one-shoed man's death, it will directly lead to your death too. You can have nothing to do with killing the one-shoed man. Plius goes, oh, that's not fair. And he goes, life sucks. So Plius is a king for many years. Things go well. Till Jason becomes a young adult. 20 years later, he's in his 20s-ish time. Jason, young adult, decides it's time to go back and overthrow King Plius. It's time for him to take over the throne. He gets all excited, decides to go on an adventure. Chiron gives him a high 15, and says, go for it. I think you can overtake him. Take off. Jason takes off to go find King Plius. Along the journey, he comes to this river that's flowing by. And as he gets to the river, he sees a lady standing next to the river. And it's an old lady with a little cane sitting there. And he walks up and goes, hey, old lady, what you doing next to the river? And the old lady goes, I'm trying to cross the river, but I can't quite get across because it's running by so quickly. Can you help me? And Jason goes, yeah, I love helping old ladies. It's a hobby of mine. She goes, thank you very much. He goes, hop on my back and I'll carry you across the river. So she gets up and crawls onto his back. He's like, this is so awkward. And then she gets on there and slaps him on the head, because that's how you make people go faster. And he ends up taking her across the river. When it starts off, she's nice and lightweight, like carrying a little fluff ball. But with each step, as he goes across this raging river, she gets heavier and heavier. By the time he gets to halfway across, she feels like he's carrying a big sandbag. And by the time he gets to the far side, he's like, it feels like you're the giant hippo. And she's like, that's not very nice. He's like, I'm being serious. And he gets out to the far side. He's pulling his feet out of the mud with each step as he gets across, gets to the far side, puts her down, and then just drops over. She goes, that was very nice of you. And if you guys have learned anything from our stories, anytime you see any old woman in a story, what are we going to find out about that old woman?
Witch.
It's a god. And so immediately the old woman goes and grabs all of her skin and just goes and rips it off. And he's like, oh my god! She's like, I'm really Hera. And he's like, yay! Now not like, oh, Hera, but rip off the skin, another god kind of Hera. And she goes, I'm Hera. And he goes, hey, what's up? She goes, well, I would like to help you out because you're really hunky and I like hunky guys. And he goes, thanks. And she goes, so what I'm going to do is help you along on your mission. She goes, what are you trying to do? He goes, I'm trying to go find my Uncle Pelias to overthrow him. She goes, I don't like Pelias. Turns out Pelias made the poor choice of not sacrificing to her years ago, and she keeps a big grudge. She goes, I would like to help you out. So I'm going to help you 3 times on your mission because arbitrary numbers bring me happiness. And so she decides that she's going to help him 3 times on this adventure as he takes off. She goes, get there, and then I'll show up randomly because that's how stories work, and then I will help you out. So he continues on. Gets to the kingdom. When he gets to the kingdom of Iolcus and confronts Pelias, Pelias realizes something as soon as he walks in. Because when Jason was crossing the river and his feet sunk into the mud, something happened.
His shoe fell off.
His shoe came off. And his shoe came off in the mud. So when he walks up and confronts King Pelias looks at him and goes, oh, snap, crackle, and pop. Realizes this is not going to go well because what does that mean?
He's gonna overthrow him.
That's the person that's going to overthrow him. And Pelias would like to kill him, but can he?
No.
Because...
Then he'll die.
So Pelias comes up with another idea. He goes, hey, buddy, what are you doing? And Jason goes, I'm here to overthrow you. You're an evil king, and I'm here to take over. Pelias goes, thank goodness you're here. Jason goes, what? He goes, I would love for you to take over. This job is super stressful, and I would like for you to do it. And Jason goes, oh, that works out well. That's why I'm here. And Pelias goes, but I have a question for you. He goes, what's your question? He goes, would you take off points from Burton, who keeps turning around the whole time while you keep teaching? And the answer is, of course I would do such a thing. Why would she do something like that? He goes, I have no idea. Would you charge points to Spangler? Of course I would charge points to Spangler. I know. And so she goes, my question for you is, have you done anything to prove yourself as a leader? And Jason goes, no. He goes, I've been living in the woods with like a half-man, half-horse guy. Pelias goes, not really impressive. People are not going to follow you. What you need to do is prove yourself as a king, and then I can happily give you my throne. And he goes, ooh, well, how would I do that? And Pelias goes, that's a good question. Ooh, how about you go on an adventure that impresses everybody, and then you can become the new king, and I'll happily give you the throne. Jason goes, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Do you have any things in mind? And Pelias goes, yes. I've heard rumors that there's this place called Colchis, and in Colchis is a magical sheepskin that can heal everybody. But it's being guarded by an evil king. I bet if you could go there and get the fur and bring it back and do this great mission, everyone would be so impressed by you that you become a great and wonderful king and everyone would rally behind you. And Jason goes, but it's really dangerous. And Pelias goes, yes. And Jason goes, but the king kills everyone who comes to his kingdom. And Pelias goes, yes. And Pelias goes, if you think that's too much for you and you're not strong enough for it and you're a little on the wussy side, I understand. We can find something more your area, like rescuing a kitten or something like that. And Jason goes, no, I'm up for it. I can go out and do this thing. By the way, did you figure out what Pelias' plan is? Josh?
He's gonna make Jason give him the fleece. He's probably gonna like put it someone's body, so once he kills him, then he'll die too, and then he'll come back.
Not a bad idea. Bale?
If the evil king doesn't kill him, then he can send him on a mission so that he doesn't have to kill him.
And so basically both parts together. He's like, one, I'm going to come up with an impossible mission and see if someone else can kill him, then I'm not responsible. And then if he gets back, I'll just take it and use it for myself. So he figures it's sort of a win-win situation. His hope is that someone else kills Jason, and then Jason comes back, and he just takes the thing for himself. He's like, oh, it wins all the way around. So Jason begins recruiting all of these heroes. Goes out there, sends out a message like, anyone who wants to go out and do incredible things, come with me on this big journey, and we're going to have a great time together. And he gets a hero like Heracles, who actually comes out and joins him for this journey. And gets a total of 50 guys for this great big journey. And they create a boat called the Argo, which has all of these oars on the side of it. And this is what they are going to ride off onto for their adventure. When with the Argo, anyone who rides on the Argo becomes called, back up, bad computer, becomes known as an Argonaut. Because in Greek, the N-A-U-T means to ride upon. We already know that because we have words in English that use not. What do we call the people who ride the space shuttle?
Astronauts.
Astronauts. Because using that information, what would astro mean?
Space.
Close enough. Stars, space. So an astronaut is someone who rides the stars or rides the space. An Argonaut is someone who rides upon the Argo. And so if you want to go out and jump on the back of a horse, you can call yourself a Horse-a-not. Nicely done. If you have a younger brother, then you can jump on their back and slap them in the head while they run around, and you can yell out their name, I'm a Bobanat, or whatever your younger brother's name might be, and it's just called education, so you're fine. If your parents try to yell at you like, I'm teaching you. On the front of the ship, there's a thing called a masthead. If you've ever seen it, it's got looks like a little person. Something along those lines is this masthead. Hera goes and possesses the masthead, and she goes into it, and she goes, this is where I will be to help you out, Jason, along on your journey. And he goes, all right. On their journey, they take off. While they're going along, they start getting into a rowing battle, because anytime you get 50 dudes into one spot, they're going to try and see who the toughest one is. And so they start having a row-off, which is almost as much fun as a weave-off. And so if the row-off, as they're, I know, I'm from Arachne, and as they're going along and they're all rowing, each guy eventually gets so weak that his little arms go all like spaghetti, like, I give up. And each one gives up. 48 of them give up until it comes down to 2 dudes left rowing. Jason and Heracles, the 2 toughest guys left. And they're staring at each other, giving each other the stink eye, rowing. And Jason's trying to keep up with Heracles, and Heracles is like, I'm half God. And Jason's like, I'm just really tough. And as they get close, all of a sudden, where's my boat oars? Jason, as he's rowing, gets so tired, he passes out in mid-row. Row, pass out, thunk it. Heracles, in mid-row, at the exact same moment, pushes his oar so hard, he snaps it in half. Snap! And it breaks. And all the guys who are there cheering go, it's a tie! Which really angered me in the story, because I think that's the worst way to possibly tie. One guy passes out from being tired, and the other guy has enough strength left to snap in half, but they yell it's a tie. Heracles goes, it's all good. The problem is, Heracles now no longer has an oar. So they decide to go over to this local island they find. We'll go over to this island, and we're going to find a new boat oar while we're there. They get out, they're wandering around trying to find a good tree to use. When Heracles' best friend, a guy by the name of Hylas, Hylas, is wandering through the woods and trying to find the right tree, when he finds this big pond, takes a cup, scoops up the water, starts drinking from the water, looks down, sees a girl in the water, just underneath the water, waving at him. He's like, there's a girl in the water, but there's no one around. He's like, seriously? Girl in the water waving at me? She's like, It's like this little wavy thing. And he's like, I'm gonna go find out about the girl now. And he goes into the water. He's like, hey. And he puts his arm down. He's like, do you need help? And she reaches up his hand, and their hands get so close that all of a sudden they make contact, and she drags him under. And he disappears because he's been introduced this thing called water nymph. And a water nymph was like the tree nymphs and the wood nymphs. They were these like elf-like creatures that lived underwater, and she kidnaps Hylas and drags him down under the water, and he disappears forever. Heracles freaks out because his best friend disappeared, and it makes him feel all sad, and he rages. And there we'll stop until tomorrow. We'll have the review game tomorrow, final test on Thursday. You'll have to read the end to find out about the zombies and the bull and the